Imagine a chicken farmer so good at lying that he convinced Hitler himself to trust him. Now imagine that same guy winning medals from both the Nazis and the British. Sounds impossible, right? Well, buckle up, because this is the wild, true story of Juan Pujol Garcia, the greatest double agent in history. By the way, I upload videos every week. So, if you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you won't miss a thing. Alright, let's go back to Spain in the 1930s. Juan Pujol Garcia was just your average guy trying to make ends meet. He managed a chicken farm, worked at a hotel, and lived a pretty ordinary life. But there was one thing that set him apart from everyone else. He absolutely hated the Nazis. Juan hated them so much that he decided to do something completely crazy. He was going to become a spy and help defeat them all by himself. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Juan had zero spy training. In fact, when he tried to officially become a spy, he failed miserably. But did that stop him? Nope. Instead of giving up, he came up with the most audacious plan ever. He moved to Lisbon, Portugal, and did something that would either get him unalived or make him a legend. He reached out to the Nazi military intelligence, the Abwehr, and convinced them he wanted to spy for Germany. But here's the genius part. Juan had never even been to England, where he claimed he could gather intelligence. So what did he do? He went to the local library, grabbed some tourist guides, train schedules, and movie magazines, and started making up detailed reports about Britain. That's right. This man was writing completely fake spy reports using nothing but public information and his incredible imagination. And you know what's the craziest part is? The Germans loved his reports. They thought they'd found their star spy in Britain. They were so impressed that they started paying him real money for completely made-up information. Juan was literally getting paid to fool the Nazis with fake news from library books. But this was just the beginning. Juan's wild ride from chicken farmer to master spy was about to get even crazier. Now, you might be thinking, surely the British would arrest this guy for sending information to the Germans, right? Well, that's where this story gets even better. The British intelligence actually found out about Juan's little operation, but instead of throwing him in jail, they had a different reaction. They were basically like, this guy is making up fake information to mess with the Nazis? We need him on our team. They were so impressed by his creativity that they gave him the code name Garbo, like the famous actress Greta Garbo, because they thought he was just as talented at acting. In 1942, the British brought Juan to London and paired him up with an intelligence officer named Thomas Harris. These two hit it off immediately. They were like the dynamic duo of deception. Together, they created the most elaborate fake spy network anyone had ever seen. Here's where it gets really fun. Juan and Thomas didn't just make up a couple of fake spies. They created an entire network of 27 completely imaginary agents. Each one had their own backstory, personality, and motivation. You had everything from a Welsh nationalist who couldn't wait to help Germany, but was actually feeding them nonsense, to a Venezuelan businessman with shady connections, and even a hardcore fascist supposedly living in Scotland. And get this, whenever one of their fake reports turned out to be wrong, they'd just blame it on one of their made-up agents. Oh, sorry about that bad information. That was Agent 4's fault. He's been drinking too much lately. They even had one of their fake agents die dramatically. And Juan was so committed to the lie that he got an actual obituary printed in a newspaper just to make it look real. The Germans were so convinced by all of this that they kept throwing money at Juan. About $340,000 throughout the war, which would be worth millions today. They thought they were funding this massive spy network, but really, they were just paying Juan and the British to lie to them. But here's the really incredible part. Juan wasn't just making up random stories. Every fake report he sent was carefully crafted with the British intelligence to serve a bigger purpose. They were playing a long game, building up the Germans' trust for something huge that was coming, which was D-Day. Okay, it's 1944, and the Allies are planning something massive, the invasion of Nazi-occupied France. But here's the thing. For D-Day to work, they needed to trick Hitler about where exactly they were going to attack. This is where our friend Juan, now known as Agent Garbo, became absolutely crucial. The Allies came up with this mind-blowing plan called Operation Fortitude. Think of it as the biggest magic trick in military history. While they were actually planning to invade Normandy, they needed Hitler to think they were going to attack a different place called Pas de Calais. Why Calais? Simple. It was the closest point between Britain and France. It made perfect sense as an invasion spot, which is exactly why it was perfect as a fake target. Now, remember all those fake spies Juan had invented? This is where they really came in handy. He started sending report after report to his German handlers, all hinting at the same thing. Hey, there's this massive army led by General Patton hanging out in southeast England getting ready to attack Calais. But Juan and the British didn't just stop at fake reports. Oh no, they went all out. They built an entire fake army camp. We're talking inflatable tanks that looked real from the air, wooden aircraft, and trucks driving around making fake tracks. They even had radio operators broadcasting fake military messages 24/7. It was like a Hollywood movie set, but for war. Juan played his part perfectly. Just before D-Day, he did something incredibly clever. He sent an urgent message to the Germans warning them that an invasion was coming. But here's the genius part. He timed it so that by the time the Germans got the message, the actual invasion had already started. Then he acted absolutely furious. I can't believe you missed my warning. Do you know how hard I work for you people? If I didn't believe so strongly in our cause, I'd quit right now. This performance was so convincing that even after the Allies had landed in Normandy, Hitler still kept a massive force waiting at Calais for an invasion that was never going to come. We're talking about 19 divisions, thousands of soldiers, just sitting there, doing nothing, all because they trusted Juan's information so completely. Thanks to Juan's deception, the D-Day invasion succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The Germans were caught completely off guard, and those troops stuck waiting at Calais couldn't get to Normandy in time to stop the Allied advance. After the war ended in 1945, both sides wanted to honor this master of deception. The Germans, still completely fooled, awarded him the Iron Cross, one of their highest military honors. They literally gave a medal to the guy who helped defeat them. Meanwhile, the British, knowing exactly what he'd done, made him a member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE. Think about that for a second. This one man might be the only person in history to get medals from both the Nazis and the British during World War II. But now comes the plot twist. After the war, Juan started getting paranoid. And honestly, can you blame him? He figured there might be some angry Nazis out there who'd want revenge if they ever found out how badly he'd tricked them. So what did our master of deception do? He pulled off one final masterpiece. He faked his own death. In 1949, with help from British intelligence, Juan staged his death perfectly. The story was that he'd died from malaria in Angola, Africa. Everyone bought it. Then, he quietly slipped away to Venezuela, where he opened a small bookstore and gift shop. This guy who had helped change the course of World War II was now just living a quiet life, selling books and souvenirs. He even got remarried and had 2 kids who grew up not knowing their dad was one of the greatest spies in history. For decades, nobody knew what had happened to the legendary Agent Garbo. But then, in the 1980s, a British author named Rupert Allison, who wrote spy books under the name Nigel West, got curious. He spent years tracking down leads, interviewing old intelligence officers, and following clues. Finally, in 1984, he found Juan still alive and well in Venezuela. When Juan was rediscovered, he was treated like the hero he was. He got to meet Prince Philip at Buckingham Palace, and for the 40th anniversary of D-Day, he returned to Normandy Beach. Imagine standing there, looking at the same beach where thousands of soldiers had landed, knowing that his deception had helped them succeed. Juan lived the rest of his life peacefully in Caracas, Venezuela, until he passed away in 1988. He was buried in a small town called Choroní, right by the Caribbean Sea. A quiet end for a man who had lived such an extraordinary life. And there you have it, the story of a guy who went from failing at spy school to becoming the greatest double agent of World War II. Well, hope you enjoyed the story. Until next time, take care.